This video offers an introduction to classroom response systems, also known as clickers, as they are used currently on the campus of Fitchburg State University in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Classroom response systems, also known as CRS, are an instructional technology tool that enables anonymous communication between students and their instructor about student understanding of concepts being discussed in class, both individually and collectively. In the simplest case, students respond to questions posed by the instructor during a polling session using handheld devices called clickers. The instructor collects and then displays these responses on a computer projection screen for all to see. This provides immediate feedback to both students and instructor about student learning. Students get to see how well their individual learning compares to that of their classmates. The instructor, for his part, gets to see how well the class as a whole is responding to his teaching. So how is this anonymous? Well, first it's anonymous because each student uses his own clicker and can send responses to the instructor privately without broadcasting his choices to his classmates. This fosters participation by students either too uncertain about their understanding or too shy. Second, it's anonymous when the instructor chooses to pose a question without keeping a record of how each student responds. For example, when asking about an ethically charged issue. By the way, here's a picture of a student clicker, the type that we use here at Fitchburg State. But I'll come back to that in a moment. When using clickers, an instructor creates new instructional opportunities in her classroom. To respond to teaching moments with on-the-fly questions or to make adjustments in how to approach subsequent coverage of an issue. To get her students working and learning together through peer instruction and collaboration. To collect group data from the class regarding new teaching strategies and techniques. Or she may conduct old instructional business in new ways, to give quizzes and exams and collect homework, or to take attendance. An instructor using clickers, or CRS, must arrange to have the appropriate hardware and software in the classroom. This involves student clickers, a transceiver on the instructor's computer for communicating with the clickers, and CRS software on the instructor's computer for running everything. The student remotes that we use at Fitchburg State are radio frequency devices with LCD screens, and they have buttons for alphanumeric entry of answers. The transceiver on the instructor's computer sends and receives signals. And it also is a radio frequency device. It plugs into a USB port, and we call it a thumb hub. As for the CRS software, it's used to pose questions, collect or present student responses, and also pose questions with PowerPoint, Acrobat, Word, even orally, by voice, etc. There are a variety of ways of doing it. Also, typically CRS software operates on multiple platforms, including both Windows and Mac. At Fitchburg State, we have chosen to use Turning Technologies products as our campus standard. A campus standard is desirable as it identifies one system that is universally recognized and supportable on campus by Information Systems, the Technology Advisory Committee, the bookstore, and the Center for Teaching and Learning. In this case, we have chosen Turning's NXT clickers as the campus standard, meaning that only NXT clickers can be assigned for use in Fitchburg State courses. We also use a bookstore business model in working with Turning. This means that students purchase clickers, in this case NXT clickers. These clickers are used in all classes assigning clickers, and students are guaranteed that their clicker will be usable in all classes assigning clickers. The NXT clickers have a broad feature set that enables their use in a large number of situations, including alphanumeric entry for multiple choice questions and numeric entry for quantitative questions, as well as answer storage for use in place of bubble sheets. The LCD screen displays all entries before submission and indicates when entries have been received. Turning then provides a number of free services to the university, including free instructor and training kits, including software upgrades, free phone support and online training, free training workshops as needed, and free funding for a student intern who is responsible for ongoing local support, which includes training and troubleshooting. All instructors using clickers should become familiar with the Turning Technologies website and the resources it offers for training and troubleshooting. This is a picture of the NXT clicker, also known as a response card, that we assign to students, as I showed briefly in a previous slide. It has an alphanumeric key set that includes a decimal point, plus an LCD screen for visual feedback regarding entries and receipt of submissions. Turning has also developed the technology for so-called virtual clickers, which they call responseware. With this, one can use virtually any web-enabled device, a computer, a smartphone, a wireless pad, as a clicker. However, this also depends on the instructor setting up a classroom to accept submissions from virtual clickers. As some instructors ban such devices from their classrooms, we have currently refrained from general implementation of virtual clickers while we develop a use policy. The Turning software needed by an instructor to run clicker sessions and collect and manage student responses comes in two flavors. One is called Turning Point Anywhere. As the name implies, it can be used anywhere, meaning it is compatible with virtually all programs used to present questions to students. It runs on both Windows PCs and Macs, and it can be run from a thumb drive, making it a good choice for those who prefer not to lug their own laptops into their classrooms. Shown here are the so-called show bars that hover on the screen above the application used to present questions. There are means for starting and stopping polling and for displaying results during a session. You may have noticed the slightly hidden collapsed show bar up here in the right-hand corner. I'll be making use of that in a moment. The other polling software offered by Turning is called Turning Point. It is designed to be installed as a plugin to Microsoft PowerPoint and to work integratively within a PowerPoint slideshow. This allows one to move smoothly between regular and clicker slides during a presentation. Turning Point currently runs only on Windows machines. However, an upgrade is in the works that promises to work on the MS Office programs on both Macs and PCs in fall 2012. Note, however, that this program, unlike Turning Point Anywhere, cannot be run from a thumb drive. Shown here is the plug-in menu bar for Turning Point, which facilitates creating clicker slides within a PowerPoint presentation slide set. There are four elements of clicker use: participant lists, questions, polling sessions, and course management. Typically, one keeps track of participant lists in order to link them to formal class rosters for use in grading clicker participation and performance. However, one can also run a class without a participant list if one is not assigning grades for clicker use. Moreover, one can pose questions anonymously that do not associate the answers with specific students, as when asking ethically challenging questions. Questions can be planned and prepared as question lists using Turning Point Anywhere or as specific slides in PowerPoint with either Turning Point or Turning Point Anywhere, as well as using Acrobat, Word, or Keynote, among others, when using Turning Point Anywhere. Using Turning Point Anywhere, one can also easily pose impromptu questions on the fly. Turning Point Anywhere can also be used to record questions written on the board or even posed orally. Polling sessions occur with the actual presentation of questions and collecting of student responses from their clickers. Finally, course management entails collecting and managing the session records as they unfold over the entire semester for a course. This is especially critical if one is intending to assign clicker grades as a percentage of the semester grade or as extra credit. Turning makes additional software for this purpose called Results Manager, and the grades can be exported to Excel and/or Blackboard. To give you a flavor of what an actual clicker session entails, I'd like to present a short demonstration of Turning Point Anywhere, the program that I use on my MacBook laptop. This is the same laptop that I use to conduct class sessions through use of PowerPoint and other programs. But as I mentioned earlier, Turning Point Anywhere can also be run on a classroom PC off of a thumb drive, including the new thin clients. In practice, I poll students with clicker questions throughout a class period. Some questions are planned for the first 10 minutes or last 10 minutes of a 75-minute class, while others are interspersed, whether planned or impromptu. Most questions I pose are presented either in Acrobat or written on a wireless tablet, such as a Mimeopad. Turning Point Anywhere records a screenshot of each question and stores it with the student response data. So let's do the demo. I've prepared 3 questions for this demo of Turning Point Anywhere, presented in Acrobat. Let's expand the show bar. It includes buttons for starting and stopping polling, displaying the results chart, and showing the radio frequency channel that I'm using. This ensures that all student clickers in my class will be set to channel 41 in order to communicate with my computer during polling sessions. For each question, I use the pull-down menu to select the type of question that I'm going to use during polling before actually initiating polling. In this first case, this means choosing the 5-answer question, and that opens the polling. Notice that response has gone green, and it says polling open at the top. Polling remains open until I close it manually, which I could do by simply clicking on that button, or I can also set a timer by clicking on here, which I've preset. It's a countdown timer, and it's preset, in this case, for 30 seconds. So as each student enters his or her answers, by pressing the appropriate key on the clicker, in this case it's all me, the responses are counted until the polling closes. So the total number of responses, in this case 5 clickers responding, The polling closed automatically at the end of 30 seconds. And then by clicking on the response chart, I can display the results for all to see. In this case, 60% chose answer B, which, by the way, at Fitchburg State University turns out to be the correct answer. The same routine is followed for the second question. In this case, a true-false question is handled as a two-answer question. So that opens the polling. Students enter their responses. Notice that with the timer, if I'd started it right away, the timer can be paused, it can be started again, it can be advanced by 5 seconds, it can be retarded by 5 seconds, actually it's the other way around, and the entire session can be closed automatically as well, and then we can go to the chart to see the results. In this case, 80% chose answer B, which turns out to be the correct answer. And then finally, in this third question, I posed a numeric question. Choosing numeric response is necessary on the drop-down menu, and that prompts students to enter a numeric response on their clickers. Okay, so all 5 clickers have responded. I'm going to close polling. We'll look at the results. Notice in this case, the answers are not displayed as a chart, as they are in multiple choice questions or true-false questions, given the potentially wide range of responses possible with numeric answers. And you can see that displayed here. The data are given in a tabular format, counting the number of cases for each concrete response. So we have 2 for 9.556, which is the correct answer, but there are individual instances of 3 other varieties of an answer for this question. Only one of them, of course, is correct. I'd like to close by highlighting some best practices to consider for implementing clickers in the classroom. Or more honestly, the practices that I have found to work for me and can recommend to others. First of all, I mix questions presented throughout a class session with those presented at the beginning and or at the end. I keep the number to 3 to 5 questions per session, although I certainly have deviated from that as needed. I insert on-the-fly questions as needed and solicit peer instruction questions as needed. Both approaches represent responding to the immediate needs of students in a class session and requires some flexibility in teaching style. Peer instruction, when students work together as teams to respond to a particularly difficult question, is believed by many to optimize learning. It also works well when solicited with planned questions of known difficulty. I use clicker grades to award extra credit on the semester grade in a course based on both participation, which also represents attendance, by the way, and performance. Some of my colleagues weight clicker use as a small percentage of the semester grade, typically 5 to 10%. Others award no grade, considering clickers to be a teaching and learning tool and not wanting to penalize students for taking chances when they use clickers. All are viable choices for instructors. I use the registration tool on Blackboard to get students to register their clickers. The registration process associates a unique clicker ID number with their unique student ID number. The registration is then stored with the clicker roster for the course on Blackboard. When downloaded, it can be used to create a participant list for grading purposes. It makes everything a whole lot easier. Finally, I post clicker questions on Blackboard to facilitate their use by students for review. I wait until after a question has been used in class, but some of my colleagues also post them before they will be used to stimulate thinking and even a bit of background research before students confront the question in class. There are lots of websites on clickers that you may find of use, but I can recommend two. One, of course, is the Turning Technologies website. It is the source for free software downloads as well as extensive training and technical support. There is also an active user community comprising a set of topical forums where users can share both problems and best practices. The other site is maintained at Vanderbilt University by Derek Bruff, who literally wrote the book on clickers called Teaching with Classroom Response Systems. He is also a consultant to Turning. That brings us to the end of this presentation. Please look for links to other videos in this series on the Fitchburg State University website.